All right. Good morning, you guys. This is your girl Tiffany coming through live in effect. So I am going to address this thing that I've been hearing about Charles Darwin being considered as an abolitionist. I want to address this. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to play a video clip from the presentation that one of the brothers did from NBK, brother Ryborn, right? He did a presentation about addressing the member from the Amara Squad, which was Brother Ankh. And Brother Ankh said something that I thought was a joke. I thought it was a joke. But what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna play a piece of this presentation. I'm gonna play maybe about 10 minutes of it because it's 6 hours long, and I'm not gonna sit up here for 6 hours. So I'm gonna play 10 minutes of the presentation, and then because there's a lot of question that needs to be asked. So I'm gonna play this presentation. Give me a moment. I'm gonna play about 10 minutes of it, and I want you guys to hear it. Okay. Hold on, let me make sure I got the. Let me go ahead and move that. Okay. I'm going to play this presentation only because it's necessary. So I'm going to start from right here. And then I'm going to stop right here in this little middle session. So let's go ahead and get started with this presentation. Let me put myself on mute because I'm trying to understand this.
All the while within the safety of the British Isles, as Karl Marx had done. Darwin chose to stay silent and away from the debate between the polygenesis and the monogenesis when it actually counted. And outside of the one international controversy, which his input on the common descent of humanity may have actually meant something, instead, Darwin stayed on the sideline, quietly enjoying his aristocratic estate. If Darwin actually had a passion for ending slavery or even to inject himself in a debate between the polygenesis and the monogenesis, then he certainly did not show it when the opportunity called for him to do so. Charles Darwin desisted in speaking up about humanity's place in nature until 1871, after the American Civil War, and even after the Reconstruction era. Charles Darwin actively avoided injecting himself into the controversy by explicitly avoiding the subject of man origins in the book of the Man and the Origins of Species. It is sufficiently in that brief sentence stating that the light will be thrown on the origin of man. Light was not thrown on the topic of human origins until 1871. Same book. Charles Darwin's legacy. Not only did Charles Darwin not take any steps to discourage the use of his theories for the creation of eugenics, he supported his cousins and sons' work towards the end. Not only did Darwin not contest T.H. Hurley and Eris Haeckel and their extirpation of blacks as apes and monkeys, but instead he incorporated into his theory through the publication of The Descent of Man. By 1871, the very prominent dangers of ranking humanity into racial hierarchies had been made painfully clear by the American Civil War and ensuing the Reconstruction era. If Charles Darwin is to be injected into the history of abolition and worse, put on par with Abraham Lincoln, then it is just to judge his actions. Charles Darwin must be held account for making such radically charged statements as those found within the Descent of Man at the end of the American Civil War and at the beginning of Reconstruction. More, both Charles Darwin's parental and mixed grandparents, Mary Darwin, Asesimus, and Josiah Sarah Widgeworth, were adamantly opposed to slavery. It is this form of Darwinism that Stephen J. could have spoke upon. It's my last part on this book. Darwin's Descent of Man, by comparison, did have a much deeper and lasting impact than the Origin of Species can have said to have. Charles Darwin's name and prestige had been established by 1871. Within 3 weeks of publication of a reprint of Descent had been ordered, and 4,500 copies were in print. Historically speaking, Darwin could not have chosen a worse time to publish the concepts continued in the Descent of Man. The infamous character of Darwin with an ape body was distributed through the United States in 1871 following publication of the Descent of Man. And Darwin's characteristic of the colored and savage race being closer to apes than to the white man became the scientific justification for Jim Crow segregation on through to the civil rights era. Hold on. I gotta blow this up because this thing is not right.
Hey, Rob, what's the name of that book right there, brother?
I'm gonna give it to you right now. When they come off of this part, I'll give it to you because the thing was cut off.
All right.
It says the sons and grandsons and grandparents of Charles Darwin and Francis Galton would take up Galton's eugenicist crusade and find employment in various hospitals, homes, organizations, committees dedicated to eugenics. The family's prestige was the very currency through which the science of eugenics purchased its respectability. Without Charles' reputation among the scientific elite, his cousin's mission would be obsolete. So I want to know, did his kids get the memo? Did these people get the memo? Let's see. Florence Henrietta Darwin was a eugenicist society like fellow. She was Leonard Darwin's third wife and cousin of the writer Virginia. Francis Darwin was Darwin Medalist, 1912, and member of the Cambridge Eugenist Society. Horace Darwin, Charles Darwin's son, was a member of the Cambridge Eugenics Society. Nora Darwin, Horace Darwin's daughter, edited the autobiography of Charles Darwin. She married one of Sir Thomas Bellow's sons, Sir Thomas Barlow himself, attended the first International Eugenics Congress of 1912. His son and husband to Nora, Sir Thomas Delamhoy Barlow, was a Eugenics Society Life Fellow. I'm trying to think about, did these people get the memo? How do you write the autobiography of your family and then you were following this? Let's keep moving. I'm gonna get you the name of the book. Give me 1 second, brother. Where am I at? All right, here. Oh, why is it doing that? Okay. Here we have the correspondence that Darwin supports Galton's work. Exactly what work did he support? Charles Darwin, a cousin of Galton, wrote an appreciative letter to him after reading Hereditary Genius. Galton wrote, gratefully replied, which is also reproduced here. Letter from Darwin to Galton. My dear Galton, I have only read about 50 pages of your book to judges, but I must excel myself. Something will go wrong in my inside. I do not think I ever in my life read anything more interesting and original, and how well and clearly you put every point. For those who don't know what this book is about, he has a theory that is talking about intelligence being inherited. And Charles Darwin had nothing negative to say about it. Next here, did they get the memo from Darwin? We all have the same origin. Did they get this memo? Did they get it? I'm gonna get into the rest of that because I got another part of this that got 25 more. But my position here is that even though social Darwinism has been ruled as being pseudoscientific, the elements and the people who took his words and his ideas and made their own things, he had the chance to talk to these people. He talked to them. He never shot it down. And then we can say that he wasn't alive to see the fullest extent of the eugenicist movement, so he couldn't reply. But as the theory goes upon and is going on at that time, he had nothing at all to say about it. That is a question that I have. How is this possible? Why do you not say anything about this whatsoever? So at the end of this point of the abolitionists of this man, Charles Darwin, we'll get to see that he had correspondence courses with some abolitionists that were friends of the family. You can see him talking to Garrison. You can see him even having arguments on boats, a private argument that he works in his diary. He never made these things public. That was his personal feelings. When you look at the introductions of his books, he does not tell you that this is to bring forth also humanity and the abolition of the slave trade. He doesn't tell you that this his work is for this specific reason. So where in the world, when we look up the British people and that history of abolitionists, his name is not in the index? Are we gonna say, oh, we have new 1,500 letters of Darwin and look, he wasn't a racist. Look, he said those were private conversations. With that, I'm gonna close it because it's gonna go too long. And let me get you the name of that book right now because you asked me for the source. My bad. Now because you asked me for the source. My bad.
By all means.
He probably
I think he dropped out on accident or something.
He was speaking in hyperbole because he was about to tell all the stuff that he liked about Darwin or whatever. And so that literally was, and I hate that Unc's not here, but it literally was hyperbole. Is similar to how when CK was saying that he used the racist fraud thing as a promotion thing. It's just all radio because he has.
I get that, my brother. But what happens when you see this? So I'm gonna show you this, so you could be, so we on the same point. I thought the same thing you probably thought at first, and I was like, I'm gonna make this one post, and maybe I could just be like, dude, get out of here, man. You know damn sure well I don't really mean that. I was trying to say this. You know what I'm saying? So then I had to make the post. Now, like, this is how we get at each other. We've been doing this for years. So if people think I got beef with this dude, we be extra hyper. I guess I'm entering the OG phase. So this is the stuff that we do. You know what I'm saying? So Lord, let me show you something real quick. Let me put this here. Where's Zoom at again? Zoom, share screen. So when I see this, now I had to triple down on my ideology, on what I thought. So if you look at this post, if you see my screen, I say Charles Darwin was an abolitionist because this is what I get from what I heard. Charles Darwin was an abolitionist who sparked the abolitionist movement. Bullshit, abolitionist movement started by the Maroons in the United States, and we all fought thereafter. This shit crazy. Hey, you mean to tell me during Juneteenth you want to uplift Charles Darwin? Well, bro, here comes the train. F Charles Darwin, etc., etc. Now, when we look at the comments, there's people asking him, yo, who said this? He says, me. What's good? So now I can't think what you thinking now because he said it. So let's see if he doubles down on it. Let's take a look. Let's see if he double down on it. Somebody else asks, who said this dumbass shit? Look what he says. I did. Do you think I'm dumb? So now I can't think of it the way you say it's hyperbole, because in my thing, this is what I'm saying. And every single post, it's only 5 of them. It ain't that many of them. I started out with that because I can't believe it. So I say this. Hey, where's Charles Darwin's first day with Rucker? What's it going to be? You're going to keep bringing up that closet so-called white abolitionists, never talk about that. Abolitionists were just talking and marching, really. This is why I'm saying this. He was on the post. He's responding. And if you look at every single thing I wrote, here's what I say. The champion of Darwinist evolution that liberated the African community and caused blasphemy. This is what I'm calling it. He comes on the post. This is the post that me and you get on. See, you didn't see the prior post. So if you look at just, because this is talking about the actual book, but at the beginning and towards the end, I'll make it clear. Darwin's philosophy led the stage after the Civil War and set back the African-American community. This is what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about if it was right and exact. I'm not talking about if it was pseudoscience or not. I'm just talking about the real life effect of what it had on. I don't see that his discovery liberated the African Americans when we have African Americans before he was born dealing with diminishing those ideas by dealing with science, dealing with
right.
vaccines.
Let me jump in if you don't mind. So the excellent part is, this is why I guess I'll come back. But the reason he asked you for that book is because another thing that was brilliant about your presentation was you gave context to how his work was received after it was done, or whatever. So that was great context that I'm pretty sure Unc wasn't aware of. Even in saying that, though, what I will say, just from your initial read, again, it wasn't. He was never like if you go back to your very first post. So
right.
So what Unc just kind of said.
Okay, so let me share my thought on that video. First and foremost, I want to say that Raybon did a good job with that presentation, breaking down everything. I pretty much agree with that because yes, even though Charles Darwin understand evolution and natural selection, during that time period, he was a racist. He was a racist because he did not see African American or Black people as being part of the human race family. He thought that we was degenerate people. So, with that being the case, yes, although uh, Charles Darwin did things as far as science is concerned, but to put him in the category as an abolitionist and to dismiss those abolitionists because you felt like, because Unc felt like they did a lot of talking. This goes to show you that he truly doesn't get it. You know, I hope that I would have thought that he would study the information by abolitionists before he even put out that thought that Charles Darwin was. And Charles Darwin would not have done it if it wasn't for this gentleman who was a former slave. Hold on. He would have not been where he at if it wasn't for this gentleman right here. If you can see that screen, this guy was the one that taught Charles Darwin about what's called taxidermy. Now, what is taxidermy? Let's go look that up before we get into the discussion. Okay. So let's look up the definition. Okay, so taxidermy is the art of preparing, stuffing, and mounting the skin of animals with lifelike effects. So what you're doing is you're like carving an image of animals, right? To give them the effects, to give them the, like making souvenirs. If you know anything about souvenirs, right? Those are made out of taxidermy. So here it is, a black man named John Edmiston. John Edmiston. Okay, John Edmiston was a black enslaved man, probably born in uh, Demaria, British Guyana, present day Guyana, South America, who later gained his freedom. He learned taxidermy from Charles Waterton, whose father-in-law, Charles Edmiston, born 1793 at Cardross Park, Dumbarton, Scotland, and he died in Guyana, had a plantation in Demaria. After he was free, Edmiston came to Glasgow with his former master, Charles Edmiston. From there, he moved to Edinburgh, where he taught taxidermy to students at the University of Edinburgh, including Charles Darwin. And it was Edmiston that gave Darwin inspiring accounts of tropical rainforests in South America and may have encouraged him to explore there. The taxidermy Darwin learned from Edmiston helped him greatly during the voyage of HMS Beagle. Edmiston is regarded as one of the 100 great Black Britons. However, Darwin does not mention him by name, so the identification of Edmiston as Darwin's teacher is not completely certain. So here it is. And here goes some more information about him right here. While Darwin was a student at Edinburgh University, he hired John to teach him taxidermy. The two of them often sat together for conversation, and John would fill Charles Darwin's head with vivid pictures of the tropical rainforests of South America. These pleasant conversations with John may have inspired Darwin to dream about exploring the tropics. In any event, the taxidermy skills Darwin learned from him were indispensable during his voyage aboard HMS Beagle in 1831. All right, so with that being said, if you really want to give credit to John Edmiston. John Edmiston was the reason why Darwin was able to learn about taxidermy when he was, and then during his study of taxidermy, he able to learn about evolution. So let me say this. I'm glad that Rob Bourne addressed that with Unc, because you can't make such an idiotic statement, and that is an idiotic statement that he made. And you talking about Darwin putting in work in the laboratory? No, he didn't. I mean, yeah, he put in work in laboratory, but what Darwin did was totally different from what the abolitionists did. See, the abolitionists was focusing on fighting against slavery. The abolitionists was focusing on earning freedom. That's what they were focused on. That was their primary focus. It had nothing to do with science. Not to say that science is not important, but the freedom was more important because they wanted to be able to start from there so they can be able to teach the people and be able to get into scientific fields. Was able to do something so where they can build their own schools. They didn't have the time to sit up in the laboratory. They're too busy trying to figure out how we're going to earn our freedom. And to me, I feel that that is a form of disrespect. It's a form of disrespect because to even make that statement, the statement in itself is ignorant. It's very ignorant. It doesn't make any sense. You know, you holler out you a scholar, but you mean to tell me you didn't take enough time to study about Charles Darwin and what he was really about? Because if you did, you would never came out your mouth and say he was an abolitionist. I didn't want to believe it. I didn't want to see if that was true. I said, let me go and look this up myself. And after watching the video and seeing what the brother had revealed on the post, I'm like, wow, I can't believe that. I can't believe that you would say such a thing like that, Unc. You really think that Charles Darwin was an abolitionist? Do you really, 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 really think that Charles Darwin was an abolitionist? If he was, what did he do to free the slaves? What did he do to free the slaves? That's what I would like to know. What did he do to free the slaves? He didn't do anything because he was a racist. He wasn't thinking about freeing no slaves. He wasn't thinking about putting up no damn fight. He was too busy, like you said, he was in the laboratory. He wasn't thinking about putting up no fight for no slaves. These people was out here putting their life on the line. These people were putting their life on the line. So, Rob was coming from a place of not debunking evolution, but debunking the erroneous concept that Unc was putting out there. And he felt offended, which he has the right to, because I would have been offended too if I heard that coming out your mouth. I would have been very offended. I would have had a whole lot of words for you. I would have been questioning, where did you come from with that statement? So again, the video is 6 hours long because afterwards they done had dialogues and arguments, and you know how that goes. But yeah, that's disrespectful. That is very disrespectful to put somebody like that on the pedestal. That's disrespectful after what our ancestors have been through in this country. After the fight they have put up, you come out your own mouth to say that he was an abolitionist. Out of all people, he ain't done nothing to free no damn body in this country. Charles Darwin ain't did nothing besides the concept of studying about evolution and studying about the origin of species and natural selection. That's all he did. Other than that, that man ain't free no damn body. He ain't free no damn body. He ain't free nobody. You know, we give credit. It's okay to give people credit, but we give them more credit than what they deserve. We give people more credit than what they deserve. Again, I do agree with evolution. I'm not against evolution. I actually respect the concept of evolution because if there was no evolution, then we wouldn't be where we are today. So we go through the process of changing and making a transition from being one part of the species family to another species family. Every organism go through that transitional process. But do not make it synonymous. I repeat, do not make it synonymous with slavery. Because slavery is something totally separate from that. Abolitionists, or the abolition movement was something that wasn't dealing with biology or science per se, but it was dealing with social movement. That's what it was dealing with. It had nothing to do with the biology. These are people that was fighting for their lives. These were people that was fighting for their freedom. These were people that was fighting for their respect. That's what they were doing. That's what they were doing. These were people that was fighting to be able to survive. So anyways, thank you guys for watching my video. I'm going to log off of here, and you know what? It seemed like there's a lot of things I have to do now. So I'm gonna put a lot of stuff on my bucket list. I'm gonna It's a lot of topics that I want to get into and I want to talk about that I haven't spoke about. So I'm going to make sure I'm making my business to start doing more topics on Black history and break down like different categories. And with the different categories, right, we're going to focus on one subject for that entire week. So let's just say if I did a subject about Blacks in STEM, I'm going to focus on that only subject with the Black people in STEM. And I'm going to talk about those Black people who were involved in the STEM program for that entire week. You know, or let's say if I want to talk about Black people that was dealing with economics, okay? Or if I want to talk about businesses, which eventually I'm going to do, I haven't set up a date, but I'm looking to talk more about Black-owned banks and stuff like that. So, yeah, and also I want to do the subject on different between credit unions and banks and things. So, but yeah, we need to start bringing more historical information now, and this is the time to do so because a lot of us, we forgot about what our people have done. We thought our people were just in slavery on chains and boats. Yes, but it's more to it than just that. So be on the lookout for that. I'll keep you guys posted. I keep you guys posted all the time on a lot of things. Other than that, you all have a wonderful day, a wonderful afternoon, or whatever you may be in the world, wherever your time zone is. I thank you guys for watching. May peace and power elevation be to you all. And you guys take it easy. All right, deuces.